lounge out. Put your feet up on one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So not too much swearing from now on, right? Yeah, family hold back. If you're in the digital team,
Could you all sort of sit
release
towards
the
the back when you're not
So
presenting?
you want me to stand just behind the mic?
Please. Yeah.
Do we need anyone outside to sort of usher people in?
you can talk, it's not a silent room. If anyone wants to sing or dance, that's also Zach will now perform a special dance done by coders. The dance of the coder. People on the live stream will be starting in about 2 minutes. But there should be a live chat. But you can start it off by saying, oh, what?
Oh, right. Well, that's what you'll say.
Is it like
On my team.
on there? Is it like
Oh, Emma's. Yes.
Take a seat.
I'm trying to utilise the sport while having it on my laptop.
It's like moving this without any before I was going to play.
Yeah, as in like outlook.
Yeah. So if
Any update on the Model 2?
if worst comes to worst,
Yeah.
I bought the bike before, I didn't have a license. I bought a property. I'm not sure this guy. Yeah.
It's really short and it's quite a tall bike, so it's quite high. He had a really stays big, just all over. Is that what's it? To be honest, I really want to say it. If you want back out, it's fine. Is that the same bike that's all the way
Hello everyone. Hiya. Sorry, we're just about to start. And hello to everyone on the live stream as well. I just wanted to welcome you to the 4th Digital Show and Tell. As you may have noticed, we're in a different room. We took feedback from the last session that we had and realised that we need to get rid of a bit of the ambient noise. So we've gone to a bit of a more intimate venue here at Barnardo's house. So hopefully out in the regions you'll be able to hear us a little bit more clearer and see what we're presenting a bit more clearer. But do continue giving us that feedback. That's how we'll continue to improve and make these things better and more useful for you. Just in case you've not seen one of the digital show and tells before, it's our opportunity to show what we've been doing with all the different departments within Barnardo's to show the different work and excellent work that's been going on. So today we'll be having four talks. We'll be going through the internal comms, the FGM risk assessment tool, the website, and then Jason will be giving an update as well. So from that, I just wanted to introduce Sharon, who will be going through the internal comms.
Slipped on that. Hi, my name is Sharon O'Day and I'm the product manager for the Internal Comms Discovery and Alpha project. And I'm working with Emma, who is just off camera there, and then with 2 people from an agency called Edo, Mary and Will, who aren't here today, as well as the internal comms here at Barnardo's. So the aim of our project is to look at the ways that we communicate within Barnardo's so that we are all better equipped to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. At the last show and tell, we talked about the discovery work we've been doing, so we spoke to people up and down the country about the challenges they have to good communication. To very briefly recap, these are the themes that emerged from that. Largely that people are really super busy, they see anything outside of their core job as being something that they can't make time for, don't want to make time for. So we need to make it easier for them to find what they want, to connect with one another, get an experience that is personal to them, and so they can feel part of what Barnardo's is doing and feel part of a bigger story. They really trust one another and want to be able to connect with people across the organisation, but to get their work done more quickly, more easily, and feel more engaged. In order to meet all of those user needs, and if you missed the detail, you can watch the last show and tell back, we're proposing a model with 4 key elements to it. And that is an intranet without walls, which is in effect putting more of our information on the web, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. A work social network where we can discover, share, connect, discuss. Again, I'll touch more on that in a minute. A secure intranet, which is recognising that not everything that we publish could go on the web for reasons of commercial confidentiality or reputational risk or operational risk. And finally, that all of those things sit alongside the kind of traditional communications that we're all used to. So email, face-to-face meetings, town halls, things like that. We also recognise that these 4 things don't exist in isolation. They also connect with one another and drive traffic to one another. So you could talk about something in a team meeting and then be pushed on to read something on the internet, for example. So the 2 things that we've been looking at in Alpha over the last month are, we'll start with the Internet without walls, and I'll talk about the work social network in just a minute. So the Internet without walls, as I said, means publishing more of our things on the web, so being open by default. At the moment we stick everything behind a firewall, even things that don't necessarily need to be. So we're trying to turn that the other way around and say that why don't we try being open by default? And by doing that, we make the information easier to access. So currently you need to go through a VPN or go on a Barnardo's machine. By putting things on the web, we reduce those barriers and the friction to accessing information for everyone, regardless of whether they're a volunteer or staff. But to do that, we need to make sure it contains the information that people want, and it's structured in a way that people can find it, so it makes sense to them. So in the alpha, we've been testing how we do that. And to do that, we've been using what's called a card sort. And a card sort literally means sorting piles of cards out into piles and giving them labels. And that helps us to understand how people think about information, how they group it together, and how they look for it. So thank you for all of you who took part. We had an online card sorting exercise, and we did some face-to-face exercises here in Barnardo's house as well. For a large part, that validated a lot of what we already understood from the discovery, which is when people visit Beehive, the content they look for most frequently were policies and forms, and information very specific to their department or their role. So this is what people were looking for. In the card sort, we often recognise that when you're asking people about an intranet, they'll often tell you about the intranet they use every day. So sometimes it reflects things that we already know. But despite that, there was a wide difference in the ways that people wanted their content to be organised. So some of the patterns that emerged from that was an expectation that information should be centred around the individual. So people talked a lot about my pages or things that are personal to me. On a similar point, people looked for things that were universal to all employees. So they put them under kind of their own functional department, despite the fact that other people will be looking for them. And finally, that content needs to be standardised in terms of the way you look for it, and that also it should be flexible so that you can access things from a number of places at once. So we're going to test how well that structure works with some user testing sessions over the next couple of weeks. We've also put together some simplified layouts, which is again how people might look for that information on the internet. And the other thing we've been testing out in alpha is the work social network. This looks very much like Facebook, and that's because it is. We're going to be testing out Workplace, which is a product from Facebook, which is separate from Facebook, but works in exactly the same way. There's a bunch of enterprise social networks on the market, but we're going to test this one out largely because, one, it's been designed for mobile first, which kind of works for our people because they're very mobile, and also because it's sort of high degree of familiarity. If you're on the internet, you probably use Facebook, or used to at least. However, as it's a new technology, it's quite buggy, so we want to work out if those are challenges that we're willing to accept and whether that will work for our people. In order to do that, we've identified a number of use cases that all kind of work together. So we've got some regional ones. We're talking to people in Wales and thinking about how they can use it within projects and within teams, and also across Wales as a region. And similarly with Northern Ireland. And then finally to think about a professional community that connects those two places. So in this case, asylum seekers, and how people who work with young asylum seekers in each of those places connect together because they're currently quite disconnected. The flip side of that is to think about how it works within a specific vertical, in this case, retail. So how you use it to connect with retail as a wider organisation, but also within that, so people in areas or specific shops and how they can use it to improve their communication. And then a sort of third leg of that is to think about how it will work with networks that aren't related to your day-to-day work, such as a diversity and inclusion type network. And finally, how we could potentially use it for standard internal comms, the kind of thing that is currently on Beehive. So that's not just about replicating Beehive, but thinking about the ways that we can use that more social functionality to communicate in ways that are more impactful. And that's what we'll be testing over the next couple of weeks. Thank you, and I'm going to hand over to Catherine. Oh, who's in there? That's my conversation.
So hello everyone, my name is Catherine, I'm the digital lead at the FGM Centre.
And I'm Roma, and I'm a specialist family support worker at the National FGM Centre. I work across the east of England in some of our local authority pilot areas.
So if you watched one of the first digital show and tells, we spoke a little bit about the FGM risk assessment tool. FGM stands for female genital mutilation. This tool is something that we've been working on for quite a while, and it's aimed at social workers to help them assess risks of FGM when they're concerned about a child. It asks a series of questions where the social worker can answer yes, no, I don't know, not applicable, and can add in any other description that they find is necessary. And at the end, the tool will create a result that can help guide that social worker into the next decisions they may make about that case. So today we're going to speak a little bit about how it's being used on some of our cases at the centre, and also how our user research is going, and some of the things we've implemented because of it.
So if we take a step back from that, during the ongoing testing and development of the RAM, so the risk assessment matrix, we tested it on a number of our cases, so real life cases that we had across our pilot authority areas, to see kind of if the results were accurate, if they were matching what we were finding ourselves, and so on. So we tested it on one particular case, which I'll talk to you about now. It was quite a high risk case in one of our areas that ended up going to court, and the local authority was applying for a female genital mutilation protection order. So it was quite high risk, and one of the things that the judge wanted the social worker or our team to do was a specialist intervention with that family, so with the parents and with the children as well. So what we did before starting was use the RAM to test where the family were at in terms of the risk at that present moment. So as you can see here, and apologies that it's a bit small, but as you can see here, you've got blocks highlighted in red. So what it shows you is the risk at that time according to the information that we inputted. What it also highlights are the safety factors, or lack thereof of safety factors as well. So in this case, the family had a lack of understanding about the legalities of FGM as well as the health complications. So what it showed is these are the areas that the social worker needed to focus her intervention on, / us focus our intervention on. So we did that, it pulled out those things for us, we did the direct work, and then we tested again the case using the RAM. And as you can see, the colours have changed now. So what actually happened is after we tested it, the risk came out as low, which is reflected in the colours. So no longer have we got red, high risk, but now we've got greys and yellows. You can see as well that the safety factors had decreased as well. And that was following the social worker knowing these are the areas I need to target. She targeted them and went across, did the RAM again, and it came out as low. I think one really, really good thing about the RAM is that it can be used during an ongoing assessment with a family. So the social worker did it before, she could have done it during to pick out any other elements that she needed to focus on, and then after intervention as well. And then what is produced, at the end is something that looks like this. Again, you can't really see it from far, but they're your results page. So what the social worker in effect can do is present that, in this case, like to a judge or to the courts, or take it to strategy meetings or any other meeting, or to any other relevant professional that might need this information. So it'd be formed as kind of the holistic assessment.
So we tested it on some of our own cases, but also we wanted to test it with social workers outside of the centre, particularly those who wouldn't be as confident assessing cases where FGM was a risk. So one of the things that came back was that social workers wanted to know why the result had come back as high, for example. So what we did is, in the results page, we altered it so that they could see what risks have been flagged as the risk in that particular case. So as you can see here, it says underneath that this is a high-risk case because the older female sibling has undergone FGM. We also found that the social workers wanted to be able to add in extra description about any of the questions they'd answered, and be able to see that at the final report. So we have included that as well. So when they print it out, as Roma has shown you, and shown it to other professionals, it includes that information. So here it says that mum's disclosed her oldest daughter had undergone FGM when she was 6 in Kenya before moving to the UK. And that information was really important to the social workers. Some of the other things were that it was actually not relevant for us to put a login, because social workers said they would start a new assessment every time. So overall, it was really easy to use, clear, simple, and cuts through lots of information to provide a really helpful result, and should be available after summer. So thank you everyone for listening.
Hi, I'm Anne Kempster. I'm Assistant Director for Digital Transformation in the digital team. And I'm Katrina Dixon, and I'm content lead on the digital work we're doing with the rest of the business.
And the last few show and tells, we've been talking a lot about how we've been doing work around creating a new website. And if you haven't seen those, you can have a look at the old show and tell sessions on Beehive. But today we're going to very much focus on showing you what we've produced as a result of the prototyping phase that we've been through over the last few months. So the first thing that we decided that we needed to do was look at the homepage for the Barnardo site. And all of the visuals that you're going to see now are very high fidelity wireframes. So what we end up building later this year will probably look structurally quite similar, but visually may look very different when we end up building it, when we apply brand more fully, and when we apply a lot more of the creative elements to it. Some of the findings that came out of user research were that people were coming to Barnardo's website and they didn't have a really clear sense of who we are and what we do. So we wanted to bring across a lot of the Believe in Me imagery, because we know that that has worked really well. It provides that commonality and similarity. People have seen the ads on TV or in print, and this gives that connection immediately to that. And we also knew that we needed a really clear statement of who we are and what we did. So we've started to incorporate that with video and with a very bold, clear statement of what we do. One of the other things that came out in research as well was that people identify very strongly with their local area, be that their shop, be it a local service or a local centre or local events. So we're looking at the idea of a local search, so you can get immediately to Barnardo's stuff that's going to be most relevant to you. And again, following on the theme of trying to give a clearer sense of who we are and what we do, we have what we've kind of nicknamed a vision sandwich. So we talk at a very high level about who we are, what we do. It's very inspirational. Again, it's drawing on the Believe in Me work. And again, this kind of approach here has tested really well in the work that we've done. And then we talk about practicalities of that. So there's the big sort of vision piece, and then the practicalities of how we support children and young people and families. And all of this is configurable and changeable. We want to show very clearly about the wide variety of different ways that people can get involved with Barnardo's, and again to highlight how they can donate. News section, which allows us to talk about any relevant topical kind of information. So it could be new research that we've done, it could be news stories, it could be blog posts, it could be local events or other campaigns that we're running at the time. And then a much shorter sort of footer and a quick and easy way for people to get the right help that they need. And if that's from another source, then we've taken that approach as well. We have also spent some time working with the fundraising team, on some new fundraising journeys. When we were coming to the end of the research, we discovered that the fundraising team were also doing some work to test new approaches, so we decided with them that they would focus on testing some new approaches to one-off cash online donations, and we would spend our time looking at regular online giving, so the monthly direct debit based stuff. We tested two approaches. I won't show you both in the interest of time, but this is the type of approach that we've gone with. So very clearly giving some amounts, and you'll notice as well as I do this that the journey is now much, much quicker. So I selected the amount, it very clearly, and in a lot less words than we have in the past, while still meeting all of the obligations that we have to in terms of gift aid and other important things. We put our details in already. We go to payment. We get our direct debit information, and very helpfully, it's all been pre-populated for us already. And I've made my monthly donation in 2 steps. We also spent some time working with people in children's services to look at new templates for children's centres and for children's services. It allows us to present things much more easily and much more flexibly. So there'll be a space here to be able to signpost people off to other services that the centre might run, and very clearly with contact details, where we are. And we're looking at a menu of different things to go in here, which are different facilities that are on offer for people who are coming to the centre, so they know if there's disabled access, if there's on-street parking, or if it might be a bit difficult for them. And we're working on that, along with events that are going on at the centre, and news for blogs and for video. We've done a very similar thing for a children's service as well. That's not that one. That's that one. It's quite similar to the other ones, so in the interest of time I won't dwell too much on that right now. And I will hand over to Katrina, who's going to talk to us about the approach that we took to content for a different journey on fostering.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about content, which that means, so when I talk about designing content, I'm not just talking about writing words, I'm talking about actually creating words and images and audio and video. As human beings, we're 90% visual, and we know that everyone has no time, and that on the internet, as much as you want to do essential things and as much as you may want to do lots of things, we are competing with cat memes as much as we're competing with other organisations. So, so where do we got? Well, we've got fostering. Fostering is one of the things that if you watch the previous show and tells on Beehive, you'll see that we did lots of user needs workshops and research and analytics. And fostering is one of the kind of top level things that people look for in Barnardo's. And Barnardo's has a lot that it can offer, but it wasn't presenting it in a really useful way. And as a content designer, I'm here to help users. I'm here to help them do what they need to do. And a lot of the time that does mean writing the words so that they get what they need when they need it. So what do we start with? So we went up to, I started with lots of research and analytics. I worked with Jessica Fielder, who's awesome, as no doubt all of you are. And I'm looking forward to working with lots of you. So she works in children's services, and she was able to give me a lot of background information about some of the problems, some of the things to watch out for. So we knew we didn't want to raise call volumes unnecessarily, but we also knew we wanted the people who phoned up to inquire about fostering to actually understand that A, at the point where they're going up, they're going into the application process, and B, that actually Barnardo's can give them a lot of support. So that's one of the things we needed. Some of the things that come out in the research were that users were getting really frustrated by a lot of the jargon, by a lot of not being able to find out what the process was, or the timelines, like how long was it going to take, were they eligible to apply. So basically came at it like a user. What do they need? They need the essentials. They need to know, what does fostering mean? How do I do it? Where can I get training? You know, how long is it going to take? And so we looked at basically the start of that process when they're researching, to stop them actually calling up and asking questions. We provide the essentials here. You know, who can do it? You don't have to be superhuman to do it. One of the key things was trying to get people feeling that they can do this. A lot of people don't necessarily feel they can, or they may not be aware they can. So trying to get that message across through the words, and using the words that users use, because they'll search for these online. So basically this looks less designed than the other pages in a very obvious visual way, but actually it is designed in a way that means people can get what they need when they need it.
Just quickly, very quickly, before I hand over to Jason, who's going to give us an update on what's been happening over the last 9 months that the digital team has been around, just to say that we have finished the alpha phase for this. We are just about to go out and find a new agency to help us build the website. And we're also working really closely with the creative team and with an agency who worked on Believe in Me to look at how together we can look at how we can extend the brand and how we can make the new site look and feel very different to what we have now. So hopefully at the next show and tell we can be standing up here with the creative team talking about how we've worked together to do that in-house as well instead of relying on agencies. Thank you. Jason.
Hello. Right, I've been at Barnardo's for 9 months. So I wanted to do a little update to everyone, including all the people over there on that little dot on the camera, to say what we've been doing, so that we can start to talk about what we've done so far and what comes next. The big piece of feedback that I am hearing from around the organisation is everyone wants everything now, all the time, and that's really, really important. What we have to do is balance that with the things that are the most important for the business. So we have to do everything as quickly as we possibly can, but we have to do it in the right way. And as some of the things that we looked at this morning, the FGM tool, the internal comm stuff, the website have shown, this is not straightforward, easy stuff. This isn't stuff that we can just go, yeah, whatever, we'll just turn it on tomorrow. It needs lots of people's involvement. It needs lots of users' involvement. It needs lots of bits of the business, the organisation, the charity, whatever we call it, to work together, to get excited about stuff, to open up, to share, to learn together. It's a big piece of work. So, in the last 9 months, we've done 4 of these, show and tells, one every month for the last 4 months. This is the first one in the quiet room. People on the video tell us whether it's better. I think some of you already have. And we'll keep changing and iterating and improving the way that we talk to you and make sure that we share stuff outside. We've grown. It's not just me anymore. There are 19 full-time equivalent people working in the digital team now. That's quite big, but those people are working quite hard. So there's the internal comm stuff, there's the website stuff, there's a lot of stuff happening, little projects behind the scenes to get ducks in rows, whether it's about helping the corporate projects board, the CPB, work efficiently, whether it's about setting the fundamentals for service design around the organisation, whether it's helping the Centre for Child Sexual Abuse get up and running effectively. This is what our team looks like. I think a lot of people think there are hundreds and hundreds of people working in the digital team. I'll get out of the way. There aren't. Most of these people don't work full time. Quite a lot of them are in the room today, so no work is happening in the digital team right now. But this is what they look like in real life, right? They've got names and faces, and all of these are Barnardo's people. Some of them are here for a long time, some of them are here for just a short time, but it's about trying to make sure that we get the right people in the room to do the right thing at the right time. We've spent quite a lot of money. We haven't spent anywhere near as much money as people think we have, but this is the amount of money that we have spent not on people in the digital team, not on people and building capability around Barnardo's. This is the amount of money that we've given to agencies to get them to do work for us so that we can get stuff off the rocks quickly. Because if we want to get stuff done quickly, it costs a bit of money. This is the sort of thing that we've been doing. This is the Centre for Expertise on Child Sexual Abuse. It's now in its 3rd version. So first of all, the picture's changed. That's the really exciting thing for me on the website. But there's a lot of other information on it. If you haven't looked, csacentre.org.uk. This is working really closely with the CSA Centre, really closely with their stakeholders, so government, researchers, public affairs officials, people in PR, and it's about doing the right thing for the users. Internally, we've been working really hard too. So far, 334 of you, have been involved in interviews with us, and that's internally and externally. We sent out quite a few surveys. Quite a lot of people have responded to our surveys. 20,000 people have helped Barnardo's take the next step on its journey as an organisation. A lot of those are around the website, a lot of those are around potential future services we might build too. And we've been out and about a lot, so if you haven't seen us yet, tell me and we'll come and see you. This is the sort of thing that all of those surveys and interviews and workshops start leading to. This is a very, very early stage with Audrey Fletcher's team, thank you Gaia, of what the next set of services might look like for people leaving care. This is a map, not just of Barnardo's services, not just of real services, but of the opportunities, of the gaps, of the challenges, of the chances that people leaving care, children and young adults leaving care, face. And this is the sort of map that allows us to go, there's a gap, there's an opportunity, there's something for Barnardo's to be doing in the next generation. And the other thing we're doing is saving the organisation money. So we've spent a bit of cash, but we've saved quite a lot more. This is what you told us to do in January as an organisation. You said you want a new website, new internal comms. You heard both about those today. We want a new data model. We want all of our case management to work. We want our reporting to work. That's all starting. And this, so we've done that. That's going to start arriving in September. That's going to start arriving in October, or March. Sorry, I lied. In March. And this is the exciting bit. I know. I've run over by about a minute. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Thanks. This is the stuff that people need, right? This is services for children and services for staff and people outside Barnardo's. And we're very excited because the Corporate Projects Board, which is our overlord basically, it's the part of the organisation which is going to hold us to account and make sure we tie in with the needs of the business and only do the right things for Barnardo's, not just because we feel like we're going to do them, but because we do the right things for the organisation. That's what we're here to do, we're enabling. They've said that we can start work on a couple of things. So, what's happening? 2 services that we're going to start building over the summer. Text me about my appointment. We hear so many times that children don't turn up for appointments, and you know what? It's probably because they don't even know they're important. If you're a child and you've never been an adult, you don't know what an appointment is, and you don't know how important it is, and it's a stress to get there, and it's risky, and it's expensive, and it takes time out of your day, and you might have to give lots of excuses to your friends about why you can't go to football practice. It's hard. So let's lower that barrier. Let's make it easier for us to keep in touch with children and for them to keep in touch with us so that they can tell us if they're not going to make an appointment. That makes us a lot more efficient as an organisation. So that's one. 2, I'm a care leaver. I've never worked, I've never lived, I've never experienced the adult world. Same sort of feeling that we hear a lot, right? How do I know how to change a light bulb, pay my gas meter, get my benefits, get a council house, keep in touch with my social worker, make friends, have a relationship? All of these sorts of things. How can I get there? What can we give care leavers to help them lead independently? It's a huge raft of stuff. Part of it might be an app on their phone. So that's the other thing about digital, remember? It's not just about apps, it's not just about stuff that's online, it's about a whole raft of integrated services. The third thing is gift aid. Gift aid is broken in the UK. It's a hell for us to have to manage every year. It's a hell for people to have to try and give every time they go to a Barnardo shop or anywhere else that they might give a donation. We want to try and fix it. So we've got a Skunkworks naughty plan that we're starting to do behind the scenes, and we'll tell you more about that through the year. And there's much, much more still to come. That's all I'm going to say. Can I have all the people that spoke this morning come up to the front? One, big hand for them, please. 2, has anyone got any questions? We've got a little bit of time. If you're on the video link, you can chat in the live chat thing. Audrey has got quite a view on the window. If you're on Slack, put questions in #digital in that channel. Or if you're on email, you can email Hafsa. Her email's also in the live chat window. So we've got lots of ways you can ask us questions. Who also spoke this morning that isn't standing in the front? Sure, let's go. I'm going to go over here. Right. Do we have any questions? Audrey?
We have some questions.
Good.
We have the website questions, I'll give them all. Is there a young person zone on the new website or on some of the services pages? We have...
Do you want me to answer them one at a time?
I'll just give all three and then you can do what you want with them. Are we using more video on the new site, and do we have a new one podcast?
So just in case they didn't come out on camera, do we have pages for children? Do we have services pages? And do we have podcast pages? Is that the right questions?
Do we have a section that is for young people?
A section for young people.
Or on services pages, but specifically for young people? And then podcasts and video?
Podcasts and
Are we
video.
having them?
So the answer to the first question around pages specifically targeted at young people, the research that we've done so far actually shows that young people don't want that. They want to be spoken to like adults. They don't want separate content available. They want to be able to navigate that, to make their own empowered decisions and choices. But of course we'll continue doing research as we go ahead, and if we find areas where it is appropriate to provide specific pages that are different to what we would generally present for children, then we will do that. Video, yes. Again, where it's appropriate and in a chunkable format, the right time chunk for people to digest. And podcasts, it's not something that's specifically come up, but it's something that we could consider with marketing colleagues and comms colleagues in general, how we might do that.
Cool. Any other questions online? What about some questions in the room?
There is one, but it's more of a statement, I think. In terms of internal comms about, I think it's about, in terms of workplace social network, what's the difference between workplace and Slack?
It's a very good question. Do you want to answer it?
Do you want me
Do
to
it?
crack
Go
into
for it.
Slack is more of an sort of instant communication kind of real-time tool, where workplace is much more like Facebook, where you can have it's a different way of connecting with people, a different type of information that you would present on Facebook than you would with Slack. But there's obviously crossover between the two tools as well. That's my attempt at
That's good.
describing.
I think like all these things, remember we're at alpha, right? So we're prototyping, we're trialling, we're testing out. This is just a trial. So we've been trialling Slack for a while. Some people love it, some people don't like it. Volunteers particularly we've not really done a proper trial with volunteers because it's quite hard to work out how they might get into it. Workplace potentially gets us over some of those hurdles, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we can potentially, we can use it and see if it works better. But we'll be trialling it in a few areas and seeing if that happens. Other questions in the room? Harvey?
I noticed a function on the website which said find a service near me.
Ooh.
Where are you getting the information from when you search that?
That's a good question. We haven't quite gotten to that level yet, and we'll be looking at that in the next stages of research.
Cool. More questions?
Is there a recruitment zone on the website?
So I've been chatting to some of your colleagues in recruitment, and I know there are plans to look at replacing the recruitment stuff, and we are working closely with them both on the procurement for that and how we sort of integrate that into the site, but it's on our roadmap for later this year, early next year.
Anyone really didn't like what they saw? So I just said that before you put your hand up. I've got a question first, and then we'll do that.
To follow on from the recruitment, are you also looking, because I saw last time about volunteer recruitment and that being online, is that also something that you're looking at?
Will be, so I think a big summary thing to answer all of those kind of questions is, I think it's next week or the week after, we're starting to do some workshops with people across the organisation to help flesh out what our roadmap is going to be for the next 6 to 9 months. But yes, that's somewhere in the yet to be defined when roadmap, but definitely, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't all arrive at the beginning of September magically, because that would be chaos. But it's a long road ahead, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does anyone really not like anything they saw this morning? Does anyone have any ideas about how they could make it better? The answer to that one should be yes. So none of it's going to be perfect. If nobody is yelling and screaming at us, that's a pretty good thing, because we've been doing it with a lot of you, especially some of the people in this room. So it should all make sense. But there are definitely ways we could improve it. The whole point of this, it's an iterative, continuous process of improvement. It needs to maintain its connection with the rest of the organisation. We're not just standing up here being the digital team, we're standing up here representing connections with marketing and communications, connections with children's services, connections with IS, connections with the FGM Centre, with other children's services around the country who are working with very specific things in different parts of the Barnardo's corporate strategy to make that real. The more feedback, the more ideas, the more concerns, the more suggestions you raise, the more we make sure that we don't miss tricks and we do things even more than we could do. We can't possibly do these things ourselves. Go on.
Just a minor thing about how some people might feel about having an open intranet.
Yes.
I'm only saying it because I shouldn't notice anybody else do it. Good. It is quite a major shift in terms of how people think and how we handle that risk. Is that, I know it's early days with that, but...
So a big part of what we're doing in the prototyping phase, looking at the intranet without walls, is identifying what content should sit behind firewalls, what reasons there are behind that, and what could ideally sit open, and doing a lot of work around that and working through that over and over and over again with the right people across the organisation so we can test that out.
If you're worried that we'd make a mistake, tell us what shouldn't be in the open. That's probably the right way. Open by default is the challenge. Scary, but fun.
Can you download the FGM tool anywhere?
It will be available as a web app, so it will be accessible on all devices, whether it's a computer, a tablet, or whatnot. It's just a URL.
Cool. Any more for anyone? One final question for anyone? Anything else online? Wicked. Oh yes, final question. Hooray!
How safe is the data on Workplace?
How safe is the data on Workplace?
Is it secure?
Yes. Again, it does sit with Facebook, and their security is to a really high industry standard.
And we'll be working with.
And we'll be working with them again, and we'll be working around password policies. It's not just about where it sits, but it's intrinsically the first line that things are going to break is when people set insecure passwords. So we'll be looking at that as well.
Lots of expert legal advice.
And I think it might be worth saying as well for anyone who's nervous around Facebook and Workplace, they're two entirely separate products. Your personal and your work are in no way connected at all.
That's really important. Guys?
Worth noting, given that it's a US company, Workplace has special provisions for EU data.
Yes, so we have a legal team working under Mari Livingston, who does all this sort of stuff for us. We are definitely not the experts in this room here about what is legally binding and what is not, but Mari and the legal team are guiding us strongly in collaboration with Chris Page and the team over in IS about how we maintain resilience, security, safeguarding of our data. And it's not the sort of thing, and this is going to be a challenge, right? This is a big thing for the organisation, to use an internal social network, to be able to collaborate, to communicate, to learn from each other, to share. That it's a really huge opportunity for us to become much better and more joined up as an organisation. We absolutely have to make sure that we don't put something out there that encourages people to share sensitive information about children, pictures of their willies, any of this sort of stuff that would be completely torturous and awful. Right, that is not what Facebook for Work is for. In fact, it's not what Facebook at all. Just in case anyone's worried. Right? This is about making sure that we feel confident and comfortable as professionals working in a big, complicated professional organisation to do our work right. And a lot of this is about shifting the balance of responsibility from Barnardo's tells you what you can and can't do, that kind of control relationship, over to a relationship of personal responsibility. We empower our staff hugely to have really challenging interactions with individual, very vulnerable children every single day of the year. So we need to make sure that we match that with giving them tools and opportunities to do that in the rest of their lives too. And if we can trust them to do that sort of thing, I'm pretty confident, although I'm not going to take it for granted, that we can trust people to use things like Facebook will work the right way too. But absolutely we have to balance what is the right thing, what is the opportunity that we can get with what is the risk of things going wrong. So that's what that relationship is going to be about going forward. And we'll probably get it wrong a couple of times. We'll tell you you can't do stuff when you should, or the other way around, but we'll try and make sure we learn as we go along. It's going to be scary, but it's going to be exciting. That's what change is, hopefully. Anything else? Any more? Final questions. Last chance for a whole month. That's not true. You can come and get us anytime you want. We're also going to keep blogging stuff we haven't done for a bit, but there's a blog about our work, about transformation generally. Javed's getting involved. Martin Crew, your channel is ready to go whenever you want. Lots of opportunities to get involved, engage, ask questions, all of these sorts of things. We're here quite a lot. We're down on the ground floor in the corner where FGM also sits. We're also over in Euston. We're all around the country. If we haven't come and seen you recently, please invite us. We'd love to come and talk to you more. All right? Thanks very much indeed. See you next month.